He kind of looks like Hercules.
Caesar looks like he lost his chin.
He looks like, oh my god, he looks like Hercules.
Hey folks, it is February the 8th, and we're talking about the first third of chapter 32. And we have the following terms up on the board. We have the triumvirate, Caesar's character, why did the triumvirate dissolve, Caesar and Gaul, and his return. Make sure you read that chapter if you haven't yet. We're going to have a quiz on Thursday, and I'm going to post the study notes up on the Google Classroom. This will be over chapters 28 to 32, the one we're going over today. So that's going to be about 35, 36 terms. And so I'm going to post it on the Google Classroom on Thursday. It's going to be mostly multiple choice and all that good stuff. But it's stuff we've been going over, and it's pretty simple. All right, so yeah, we're going to go over this chapter the next couple days.
So how do you draw the Thessalonians from the story?
I'm sorry, I just heard mumbling, sir.
Okay, so there's like this is a ship.
Uh-huh.
How did the Lacedaemonians, the low eaters look like? So I just draw like people smoking the lotuses, or I think they ate them. What if they like cooked them?
I think they ate the lotuses.
Why would you eat lotuses?
Because they're edible. They're like, I'm guessing it's kind of like honeysuckle, you know?
Because they wanted to forget all
Why
of
would you
their
eat
troubles.
flowers?
They were escaping reality
You can
and
eat
their
lotus, but it's
responsibilities.
like you drink it. Like maybe it's like that.
Yeah, it wasn't about literal people out there like eating flowers. It was about like what could this mean for like everyday people?
Maybe they snuck drugs in it.
Well, okay, yeah, you could say it was part of a Just Say No campaign from like 400 or no, like 800 BC. But
Just say
really,
no, all women are manipulators.
it was about living in the world that you have around you. It's like not shirking your duty.
Carrot.
Like there's a.
All right, got one more minute, then we will begin.
That looks like a tumor. How do you draw
Man,
that?
Caesar really got that like 5 head though.
5 head.
Yes.
What's 5 head?
Receding hairline at age.
Oh, okay.
Looking.
I see. Well, it kind of looks like Pompey's got a comb over, but it's kind of sticking up there.
So I got see.
He's got a helmet head. He's got a Roman helmet head. It's probably just going up into the helmet.
Pompey looks like he enjoys an American diet. He's still got baby fat up in the States.
Yeah.
Pompey kind of looks like that rich Latino dude.
Pompey was more known for
It looks like a guy you never want to run into at a convention. He looks like a guy you would not want to run into.
What's gladiator?
You already did? Oh my gosh.
All right, folks.
Beat you up with
AJ, make your seat, please. All right, kids. So let's go ahead and begin. So we have the terms up on the board. Once again, the triumvirate, Caesar's character. Why did the triumvirate dissolve? Caesar and Gaul and his return. So you're reading some Plutarch that are going to come up in the future are going to go to a lot more detail about what happens here as far as like the relationships, betrayals, their plotting, things like that. And so more is to come. And a lot of what we know about these events actually come from authors such as Plutarch. And of course, there's other authors as well from the ancient world, but Plutarch's a good one. So, all right, so we see that they are Pompey, who we've read a bit about in the past, Caesar, who we've been introduced to, and Crassus. If you remember, we mostly just discussed him regarding the time of Spartacus. And so these three guys, like I told you, you can often compare the Roman society, especially the upper crust of the society, to basically the mafia. I mean, there's some Italian rich guys getting together, nobody, like out of the public, and they're making secret deals and plans on how they could carve out power and wealth. And they do that. So they make agreements to back one another up to get positions of power, like governorships. And so, like, the governor of like a large Roman province like Spain is like being the king of a very large country. It's pretty good. You have the best military in the world. You get to reap benefits from the taxes. You essentially get to make the laws of the region however you want to. It's like being a king without being called a king. And so these guys, at least for periods of time,
Huh?
were helping one another have these governorships.
I heard
Um,
something.
This is when we're going to see the institution of the dole. And so Pompey and later Caesar, while they're competing for like influence with the Roman public, remember the people of Rome are the ones who essentially get to have the vote for like positions of power, like within the government. And so if you can sway them on your side, you can eventually control the law. And so we start seeing that Pompey is going to start doing things where he's going to have essentially bakeries start giving out bread to people. And so a lot of this grain for this bread, so the grain for this bread is shipped in, I think later it's going to be shipped in from Egypt. Egypt's going to be the breadbasket of Rome later. I think at this time it's like places like Syria and stuff like that. And so it's going to come in through their ports, through their massive network. It's going to get baked, and he's going to give it out to any Roman citizen who wants it. And this is pretty good because most of the people in Rome are really dirt poor. And it's like, hey, I'm feeding you. He's also giving out cash handouts too. He's like, here's some money too. Go do what you want to with it.
I thought he was his votes.
And yeah, like we see that as like, wow, you're corrupt. You're like buying people. You're offering them welfare in exchange for votes. But it
That's
worked.
really bad, though.
Is it bad? It wasn't bad for Pompey.
But a lot of people still do it.
He's still not here.
You can make that argument in modern politics, like whoever gives out the most gets voted in.
Right.
But
Well,
the thing is,
Bernie.
we know that for a fact that back then, that's literally what they were doing. So he wasn't doing it because they like really cared about, like the poor people of Rome and things like that. It's a little bit more cynical. It's literally more like, I want to be in power. I really love being famous. Here's some things that don't really cost me that much and love me. So another thing he's going to do is he's now remember Caesar was the aedile, which was the guy who put on the games, and he's going to do a good job of it, even though he's going to kind of outspend his family's wealth doing so. But he's going to get really popular.
Yeah.
But he's going to have a friend named Crassus in the triumvirate who's going to bail him out for more political favors. So he's going to use his popularity to help Crassus, and Crassus is going to use his money to help Caesar. Now, once again, we see something that can be a very big danger for modern government or politics in any country or any region, including here. So one is you're paying people for votes. Another is you have somebody who's gaining popularity and they're willing to sell their popularity to help somebody out politically. So that's another big dangerous thing. And so we're going to see that these three guys combined, their machinations are going to lead to Julius Caesar essentially dissolving the republic, the representative government. So we see like this corruption is going to end it all. Not that it was perfect. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it's going to be corruption and
It's like-
greed. That's
We're
going to do it.
selling stuff for exposure,
Well, yeah, and people, you can say people do that. Kind of like you were saying, people probably buy votes. Well, you could say that people definitely sell influence politically as well. So,
And this is all thanks to today's sponsor, Raid Shadowlet.
so here's Pompey. Pompey is going to build this giant amphitheater, the Theater of Pompey, and so he's going to put on a lot of free, no charge, public plays for Roman people once again. So he's going to provide, this is what they call bread and circuses, provide entertainment and food and general well-being so that people are sedated. Their needs are cared for and they're distracted from the fall of their own country. And so
Studio movie.
that leads the triumvirate to essentially rule as they want to and destroy the Senate, as we'll see. And so the masses they don't care. They got food. They got their soap operas. They don't really care. So,
It's
They got
Studio
games.
Movie Grill.
well, yeah, I mean, think about how this is dangerous for a modern people. Like sometimes people criticize, like people in America. It's like they don't really care that much about politics because they got food in the fridge and they got something on the TV on the Netflix, and so they don't really care about it, like the well-being of their nation or their neighbor or something like that, or of their particular faith. Even sometimes they're distracted and their needs are cared for and they're comfortable, and so this breeds one of those questions where people bring up: do easy times breed soft people, and do hard times bring strong people? So some people might say this is one of those times where soft people are around. And so Julius Caesar, though, he's not going to rest. He's going to use this time to, of course, be governor, as we've seen of Spain, who's a fairly good governor. And then he's going to get an army as consul, and he's going to invade Gaul. He's going to make it all the way up to the southern coast of Britain. And so for the Romans, and from their perspective, he's going to discover Britain, which they're going to come back to later. He's going to completely subdue Gaul, which is full of mostly Celtic barbarians at this time. He's going to, during this whole time while he's out campaigning, he's going to write back letters back to Rome. And he's going to make sure that his people are going to publicly read his letters. And he's going to write it like an adventure story. And he writes it all in the first person. Well, not the first person. He writes it all in the third person. He's like, Caesar did this. Caesar did that. Caesar met these weird people that did this and that. He would write like all the strange things he would see that totally blew the minds of the Roman people, like the strange practices and dress of the Gallic people, about how fearless he was in battle and how like kind he was in victory. And so he was trying to set it up like propaganda, which is really smart because he knew that he wanted more than just this. And so during his time in Gaul, he's, of course, like the book says, he's going to construct bridges and roads and things like that to help make a network so that they can come back and rule this area later, though it's going to have some off and on effectiveness. They don't have to do a lot as far as sieging goes because there weren't really like any cities then. You had some of what you might find in like Beowulf, like essentially the beer halls where like the local chieftain would have like, it looks like a very giant cabin with maybe like wooden walls around it, like palisades. But they didn't have to worry too much about like stone fortresses or something like that. So a lot of the battles were ground fighting. Of course, they're fighting Celts and Germanic barbarians later. They're known for their mustaches, which Romans thought were ridiculous. They're like, why would people do that? And pants, which Romans also thought were ridiculous. But they were known also for being like very hardcore warriors, often like so brave that they would fight in the nude. And yes, because they didn't care if they died. So they wouldn't wear any armor, and they would just charge out screaming.
No one's gonna live to tell them what it looks like.
Yeah, they just so they had a lot of psychological impact on the Romans, who were still pretty victorious.
The Romans were, what is this?
Well, they're gonna do all right. Caesar's going to be victorious wherever he goes. He's going to take a lot of prisoners, but the thing
Caesar
is,
fight noob too?
no, that's Caesar here. That's Caesar. He's wearing his consul.
Brian, did you think Caesar was the guy tied up?
That guy?
around?
That guy's obviously clothed. He's wearing pants. All right, so
That guy's not nude, he has a pen.
I said half naked.
y'all are too fixated on that one thing. All right, so
Just Brian.
Caesar's going to be very victorious. He's going to befriend a lot of these people after he conquers them. And he's going to get to watch all kinds of cool rituals, such as the Burning Man, which is essentially they make this giant wicker stick figure. And they would, the stories are they would tie criminals up to it and they would set it on fire for their Celtic gods.
That is brutal.
That is very brutal. And I think it kind of inspired the Burning Man they do in Arizona, where apparently a bunch of like crazy people do a Burning Man thing. Don't worry, they don't tie people to it. So,
How do you know?
Or so they.
because I've seen
Have you been
videos. No, but I've seen videos. No, I'm not gonna go to that kind of thing. My wife killed me. And like,
Why are you pointing at?
Um,
Why are you pointing at Jaden? Hello.
no, he's not. All right, so but the thing is, while he's off doing these adventures, he's coming across these crazy people, crazy rituals, and he's like, "Look at these people! They're doing human sacrifice." And that's one thing the Romans thought that human sacrifice was an abomination. There are, however, recorded times where Romans did human sacrifice in times of great peril, but they
And
thought that
loved
the general
Greeks, whose whole
practice.
thing was human sacrifice.
The Greeks?
Yeah,
No, they
like they would kill criminals and stuff on their altars. and things.
did like animal sacrifice.
Like they would take
Yeah.
prisoners of war and use them as like sacrifices to the gods.
That was-
That's why they.
That was that. No, that was very. No, that's one of those things that's very distasteful to the Greeks too. Though there are times where it happened, it was kind of rare. Yeah, the Greeks too thought it was like an abomination, pretty much. Now, I'm not saying the Greeks were all perfect. The Greeks did have people killed left and right, like willy nilly, for other purposes. But as far as like religious practices, no, not so much. All right. So while he's off doing all this, however, Crassus dies. And see, the problem is the triumvirate was essentially like checks and balances for this mafia group. Neither one of them, like if one of them got too strong, he was scared the other two would team up against him. But now with Crassus dead, it was just Pompey versus Caesar. And Caesar was off in Gaul, while Pompey was able to like have things run the way he wanted to back in Rome. And so Pompey is able to ensure that he's able to stay in control of one of the Roman armies for a 10-year period, but Caesar's 5-year period's almost up. And he was about to have to give up his army. And only Pompey's guys were in charge of Rome now. And so he knew that he was going to be defanged and have no protection. And all of a sudden, this guy who was his friend, as long as they were both benefiting, might see him as a potential rival and, you know, have him offed like mafia style. And so
We're friends until we're not.
yeah, and so that's when we are going to have Caesar is going to immediately turn around, march his army back to Rome, and say, "Hey, wait a second, y'all didn't play fairly for this and that reason. You turned away my messengers, essentially, the tribunes, and he wants to get."
Isn't Caesar technically his father-in-law?
What? Well, yeah, but I mean, like, kinda, but like, she died, right?
So like, just tell him to go to his room.
Goes her.
You're
Okay.
grounded.
All right, you first.
Like an army war.
All right. So, note to self: if I'm ever the father-in-law of like a warlord, I can like ground him. So, okay. So we'll keep that in mind in case I marry one of my daughters off to like, I don't know, like an African warlord. All right. So, all right. Let's move on to the notes. So the triumvirate. So who were these guys?
It was Caesar, Crassus, and what's his face? The other Seaman.
It's not Seaman.
Pompey. I was thinking
Yeah.
Cicero, but that's the guy named Pants.
Yeah, Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey. And why did they make this special super frame group?
Because they all wanted power and they were like, hey, let's team up.
Yeah. Agreed to help each other.
It's
Basically
like a
scam the
political
system.
Hunger Games.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like really good books. They like really look at historical examples, and that's one thing I know about the Hunger Games. Apparently, like the author was really into like Greek Roman history, right? Like otherwise, I didn't pay attention to it because it just wouldn't fall asleep. All right, so agreed to help each other gain power,
In Rome.
wealth in Roman politics.
Oh, what?
Oh, what?
Oh, well.
Sorry.
And so, like, you could probably look at the history of almost any country on earth or not even countries. You can look at like large institutions. Hey, Jaden, can you sit up for me? Thanks. Timothy, can you sit up for me?
It's like a
Thanks.
three-way prisoner's dilemma, you know? But it's like either you get the jump on them, but the thing is, then you won't get any benefits anymore.
Well,
But you'll have all the power to yourself.
We hate you, but we need you.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's complicated. It's really complicated because this is just between the three. Like there's a lot of other things too. Like they have clients. Remember, like the mafia. Like we were talking about in Rome. These Roman guys had clientele of people who were also wealthy Roman nobles. And Caesar had some that would do anything he told him to. Crassus, Pompey. They had a disruptive history. Remember, Caesar used to be part of Marius' party. And so those people who loved Marius back in the day loved Caesar. Pompey was one of Sulla's guys. So the people who loved Sulla loved him. So you had this older civil war. And remember, there was a history of massacres. When Marius was in charge, killed Sulla's people. Sulla comes back, kills Marius' people. So everybody's scared of just one of these guys being in charge because they know that if history repeats itself, Pompey would kill all of Caesar's people, or Caesar would kill all Pompey's people. That was the big fear. But that brings us to Caesar's character. Was Caesar like that?
Merciful.
Yeah. And some people say that's what got Caesar killed. He was so merciful. So,
Yeah, I mean, he just went to the setup place instead of
He
killing
was just
him.
vibing, huh?
They killed him,
yeah.
stabbed him multiple times.
Yeah, merciful in victory.
Also like 37 stab wounds.
Actually, it's 29 stab wounds.
Yeah.
He was seen as a kind ruler. And so this is one of the things that's really going to make Caesar one of those bizarre historical characters. Because like during the Renaissance, you're going to have Italian republics of educated people who love their freedom are still going to look at people like Caesar and be like, wow, he's really a good guy. It'd be nice if we had a king like that. Because, I mean, that's one of the dangers of like the strong man is like they can be a really great person, but you're going to have to give up all your freedom for them to be in charge. And what if they're not in charge one day? Somebody else will come in and that's just be awful. So
There's nothing better for the benevolent ruler.
until they're gone, or until the benevolent ruler says you're part of the problem, and then you're out.
Because Caesar was stabbed like 32 times or something.
Yeah.
So there was like over 60 senators or people, whoever, who agreed to stab him.
I'm sure there was a couple who were like,
Explain this.
oh yeah, totally got it. They really good. All right, why did the triumvirate dissolve? So
Crassus died.
yeah,
They all wanted
So
to be
first-
each other.
Crassus was deaded. And so then what is Pompey going to do?
Ask for more time so he can get power for himself.
Yes, Pompey sets himself up for more power, essentially to have the army longer and to deny Caesar an army. And remember, we've seen from the time of Sulla and Marius, whoever has the army and has the army in Rome is the one who's in charge of Rome.
I thought, wait, okay, so you know how Latin is every C is just a K sound?
Yeah.
Does that mean Caesar's name is actually Caesar?
Kaiser.
Kaiser?
Yeah, like the
Kaiser.
German Kaiser for king, or it's gonna
Oh,
like
but I
when
guess
it's
his real
russified,
name
it's
is
gonna be
Julius, so
czar.
it doesn't matter.
Julius,
So,
Julius Caesar.
yeah, because the
But Julius sounds
Kaiser.
stupid.
Oh,
like AE, these two vowels make what's called a diphthong, and it has an I sound like Kaiser, unless you're church Latin, then you say it like
A.
Kaiser.
I read it as, in my head, so I spell it right, I say Caesar. Like queso. Like queso.
Caesar, like a quesadilla.
Caesar
There you go.
quesadilla.
There you go.
Queso quesadilla.
All right,
Yeah,
so-
I have white, so I see it as a salad.
Before and during all this happens, Caesar's off in Gaul doing stuff. What's he doing there?
Making friends. and
Building
doing
bridges.
stuff.
Okay, building bridges.
Jonas.
So-
Wait, whoops, I accidentally
only you knew.
I just put Caesar's friends instead of.
So yeah, while in Gaul, he defeats the Celts, and like Celts is like a really broad term. We're just using it for what you might call a linguistic group. You had Celtic people in the British Isles, all throughout Europe, all over the place, right? And so they had kind of roughly similar belief systems and like as far as you know, but so much of it's most of what we know about the ancient Celts, Caesar wrote about. Like they were a pre-literate people, so they don't have historical records. And so most of what we know about the Celts, Romans wrote about. And Caesar was one of the ones who had the most written first-hand accounts of these people. And so it's really the perspective of the conqueror who doesn't know anything about him, writing about what he sees. Defeats the Celts.
Still better than nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's better than like say some of those like Indus River Valley people in India, where all we have is like essentially like the foundations of their homes, and we don't know anything else about them. All right, so Wallengaul defeats the Celts.
Builds bridges.
Yeah, builds roads and bridges. So networks, because he knows wherever there's the road network, the Roman army can usually come back. And writes home or to Rome about his success. He's like, oh, look how awesome I am. I'm like Alexander the Great.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to bring like bed sheets tomorrow, right? Tristan, are we supposed to bring like bed sheets tomorrow for like the thing?
Yeah.
Bro, I'm not even gonna do it since I have so many assignments. I'm gonna be like,
You're such a rebel.
You're not gonna do what?
I'm not gonna join the party because I have 2 assignments to do. Yay.
Why don't you just do it?
Well, I have 2 assignments. I can't do it. I can't do this.
Yeah, I really
have
can't.
We have that.
Plus, I don't have time to get them, so.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, so what does he do in his return? Last one.
He tells them to let him keep his army, but they don't let him, and he decides to rally his troops and go take down the government.
Yeah. So the Senate denied him, as in Caesar,
His army.
a consul extension.
So he becomes,
Cancel. They still cancel.
what, 5 years old? Is it?
Yeah, the 5-year consulship. So he crosses the Rubicon, remember? So he brought his army to Rome and defeated Pompey's army in Spain. So he's like consolidating his power. And if you remember, Pompey was no pushover, but he hasn't really been challenged by like an army that was like equal to his. He was okay fighting some slaves who finally broke free or some disorganized pirates. But now that he's fighting another Roman legion, it's whoever, all things are equal. Whoever the best leader is wins. Pompey couldn't hold up. Of course, Pompey wasn't present, I guess is his defense, with the Spanish army. At this time, he fled to Greece, where he was trying to get the Greeks to help him out. We're going to see it's not going to turn out that well.
I
Well,
mean,
I think the Greeks
Thomas
don't have
was
them
used.
anymore.
he voluntarily left the country on the threat of an invasion.
Nah, that's
Yeah.
not true.
So he shows he's scared, right?
It's quite under Pompey.
I mean, really, yeah, he probably could have had a better chance, like staying in Rome, but maybe things weren't, maybe not that many people were really on his side after all. Maybe more people were siding with Caesar. But he knew that the people liked Caesar. What's up? You may? Yeah. All right, folks, that's going to end it for today. We'll come back and talk about part 2 tomorrow.
Can I make a prediction about trees?